So today I am privileged to welcome in my special guest, Karrie Brazaski. And Karrie is a nurse who came from kind of the admin space, management space. And now what she's done is she's created a nonprofit and it's called Helping Healthcare Heroes. So let's jump in and hear from Karrie.
So, Karrie, thank you so much for joining me. It's really nice to have you here. It's always good to see you.
Well, thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Okay, so you have this like amazing nonprofit that you started. Kind of shocked me, surprised me. I'm like, what? What is Karrie over there doing? So I really want to kind of hop into that. But first, I want to, kind of go over like a little bit about your nursing background and how, what is your kind of history as a nurse and, what did you do when you first started out as a nurse? So just give us a brief overview of your nursing career.
So I am the epitome of when a door opens, take it and walk through. So as a baby nurse, as I like to say, I was a labor and delivery nurse, critical care OB. And then I was one of those people who didn't do well on night shift. And so I needed a day job. And so I decided I was going to be an ICU nurse because they had ICU positions. So I went from OB to ICU and then had a very severe latex allergy that ended my bedside career because back then everything was powdered latex everywhere. And I went into an anaphylactic reaction at a patient's bedside one day. So that kind of ended my bedside career. And then I got into case management and then quality and became a chief quality officer for a hospital and then a chief nursing officer and then a chief operating officer and I was a hospital executive for 15 years until I absolutely burnt out and hit the wall and there's no resources. And when they say it's lonely at the top, it really is. And I realized I didn't feel like I was making a difference anymore. I felt like I was a failure as a wife, failure as a mom. And so I left it and didn't really know what I was going to do and took a year to kind of recoup from my own personal burnout. And I started my own company. And then COVID hit and I have a business strategist who was like, hey, you talk about the mental well-being of healthcare and what charity can we donate to? Because I want to make a difference. And there were none. And so she's like, let's start one. So now I have a for-profit, my Helping Healthcare Heroes nonprofit. And then my for-profit is Redwood Executive Coaching. So that's kind of the quick. And so I always tell people I was a CNO at age 30. So there is nothing that you can't do in this career if you are willing to open the door and walk through when it's there.
Oh, I like that. I like that. There are a lot of opportunities for nurses, as we well know. There's so many different avenues for nurses to go into. But who would have ever thunk that nurses would be starting businesses? So before we get to the nonprofit, really, I want to talk a little bit about what inspired you to start your original business, your Redwood Consulting, which was previously under a different name. But
yeah,
what,
Karrie Brazaski
you're
coaching.
working in the hospital or you're working in healthcare and all of a sudden you go, yeah, I think I'll go start a business today. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I wish that it was like, ooh, I had this grand plan. Bottom line, I burn out. And I was at a point in my career where they wanted me to move to go fix another hospital. And emotionally, physically, I was sick all the time. I had had 2 cancer scares and I was like, I can't do this. I had a 7-year-old that I virtually never saw because I was always working. And when I wasn't working, I was on the phone. And so, my burnout, when I hit that wall, it was literally just you can't do this anymore. And so I really took a step back, went on a holistic healing journey and really tried to find, how do I heal my body? How do I heal my family? And we spent an entire summer just reconnecting. And I mean, we went on a 10-day tent camping trip just to be away from people. And it was fabulous. And I thought at the end of that, I was going to go back to work. Like, I'll just find a new job. We'll do this. And I would physically get ill every time I would think about it, or every time I'd sit down at the computer, like, I need to find a new job. And I was like, you know what, this is crazy. And so I did some different trainings, some holistic nutrition training, some trauma release. And what I really realized is that I didn't want to go back into that environment, and that I could make a difference helping people stay in their careers, that there were no resources. I had also gone to 2 nurses' funerals in that time. And when I really started doing research, I realized that nurses experience PTSD at higher rates than what the VA says their soldiers coming home from war are. Nurses are anywhere from 23 to 45%, 23 for a med surg nurse, 23% of those people experience PTSD, up to 45 in critical care and ED. And that was before any of the current COVID crisis and all of that. And people were burning out. Burnout rates were just through the roof. And so I wanted to make a difference there. And I knew that the food kind of helped heal my body, but it didn't matter how much food or whatever you did. If you didn't have the stress under control and have techniques to be able to process all of that, you're never going to get healthy. And so that's really why I started initially Karrie Brazaski Coaching, and then pivoted to Redwood Executive Coaching, because I wanted to be able to go back and help organizations to be able to retain their key talent, give people those resources that they need so that they don't burn out. And so that's kind of how we came to today.
Well, that's really interesting. And I was going to bring this up. Was you burn out like a lot of us do? I did too. I burn out, and I was on the night shift as well. But it was something you said was really kind of very interesting. And you said something so that to help these nurses so that they can stay in their careers. Something to that effect. I'm like, well, wait a second. But you burn out and had to take a step back from that. But you found a different way to be a nurse, which is what I really talk about on, with Change of Shift a lot, is just finding a different way to be a nurse.
Oh, yeah. I love people when they say, oh, well, you used to be a nurse. No, I'm still a nurse. I still have a nursing license. And actually, with a lot of my clients, they have health issues that are going on. And so I incorporate, the disease process, their medication. They don't know about what's going on with their medications that they're taking or why they're doing it. And so we create this whole wellness within them. I'm still a nurse. I just use it differently. And what I truly believe, whether you're a nurse at the bedside, you're a nurse in a hospital, wherever, you should be able to make the choice of when you want to leave. So many of us, we get burnout, and so we go to a new department or we go to a new hospital. All you did is buy yourself 6 months.
Yeah.
You got your 6 months of honeymoon until it's the same thing. Yeah. And unless you address the underlying issues that's causing the stress, the trauma, the chronic overwhelm, for some of us, it's, the traumas that we've had in our past, until you deal with that, the same stuff just comes up. It's just in a different place. Yeah. But you should make the choice that this is what I want to do, not that I can't physically do it. I can't mentally take this load anymore. Mm-hmm. And so it saddens me when I hear nurses leaving their profession. We've worked so hard and trained and to do this because we were called to do it, and to throw it all in because of stress. I don't want that to happen to anybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Where were you like 15 years ago for me? But okay, so let's kind of move over now to the to helping healthcare heroes, to the nonprofit, and tell us a little bit more about that. I know that you started that kind of in response to seeing the nurses just going, losing it really from the stress. But I don't want to. What I really want to talk about is, like, for my audience and Change of Shift, these are nurses who are thinking of what else can I do? So for those nurses who are out there and they're thinking they want to start a nonprofit, how do they do that? What are the first things that you do? I mean, I wouldn't even know what path to take to start a nonprofit.
Well, I've learned a lot in a great deal because, we just started, it was the end of May, is when we formed. Really, you have to have a mission. You have to have a mission that's going to make a difference. And, our mission is to be able to provide resources and tools to health professionals because they're the ones fighting to save our lives. And if we don't have health professionals, we don't have healthy communities. So for me, I think the biggest thing is to have that mission, whatever it is. Maybe it's, I want to address childhood obesity. I want to, they have to have a cause that they can so I had a friend ask me this last night, and she said, if you take all of the money away and you can only do one thing from here out and you'll always be taken care of, what is it? And I was like, oh yeah, it's definitely my helping healthcare heroes. I want to make sure that we don't have stressed and overwhelmed health professionals. And so it's that mission driven. What is it that you want to do to make a difference? We make a difference every day as nurses, in people's lives, but how do you do it in a bigger way and have that impact so that you can have that charitable giving? But I also will say is don't look at a nonprofit as a bake sale charity. It is truly a business that you are starting because you want to be sustainable so that you can go forward. And because like most businesses, I don't know I can't remember the exact statistics for businesses, but most nonprofits fail within the first 3 years. Mm-hmm. So you need to make sure that you're setting it up to where you truly can serve the population that you want with the mission and be able to make a difference in your communities.
Okay, so once a nurse has a mission, she knows what she wants to do. What do you do? What does she do? Is there like a website here? Start a nonprofit here. What are the first practical steps? Because that's where we all get hung up. What are the doggone practical steps that she goes
to
her nonprofit?
So I don't care whether you're nonprofit or you're building a business. I think you get a mentor. You get somebody who can help you through the process. I've been fortunate enough in both my for-profit and now the not-for-profit to be able to get myself with some good mentors. Now I paid for a lot of people who didn't give me what I needed, but I was able to learn a lot, and maybe not be able to put my business to the spot that I wanted it at the time, but it gave me the resources. With the nonprofit, I connected with a person who this is what she does is she's on a mission to help, 10,000 nonprofits that she wants to be able to help go out into the world to make a difference. Mm-hmm. And so I hired her on as a mentor and did the training that way. I think sometimes with nonprofits, people make it out like it's so hard. Oh, it's so complex. You got to yes, you do need to get your 501c3. And yes, you do need to be incorporated in the state that you're here. And by no means am I a lawyer, tax person, or anything like that, but just basic things that you have to do to set your organization up like a business. And you'll have like incorporation, LLC, and then there'll be nonprofit corporation, and that's what you want to do.
Okay, so she would file that.
Yeah, and then you become a domestic nonprofit in that state. Okay. Now, there is a caveat that if you're going to do business in another state, then in the other state, you have to file a foreign nonprofit, which people think foreign, like outside the borders of the United States. Right. But remember that businesses are run at the state level. Mm-hmm. And so you have your state, and then you're going to be foreign to another state. So you have to file that if you're going to go into other states. And then like I incorporated in the state of Nevada because that's where my general population, even though I'm physically located in Arizona. That's where the majority of my population is. And so each state has their own charitable, like we had to do a charitable solicitation with the state. And then we're also filing in Arizona as a foreign entity because I will do local things with my local community here in Arizona.
Okay.
So once you have a legal entity, a nonprofit, then you have to have a board because it's a corporation. So you need a board of directors. It doesn't need to be a lot, like 3 people. Our board is 4. It's 3 plus me. Once we have acquired our initial funding source, I'll step off the board and then I become the executive director. So once you have your board, you need your bylaws. Basically says this is how we're going to run our organization.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have, yeah, that's it.
So, okay, now, so where would she find the like bylaws? Do you write them up yourself? Do you go to an attorney and have bylaws written up? Are there forms like templates for bylaws?
There are templates that you can do. You can hire, an attorney to help you with bylaws. You can look at different nonprofit bylaws. Basically, your bylaws are saying that we're going to run this entity as a charitable organization, and this is our mission, this is our purpose, this is how we're going to run our business, this is who our board members are, this is our conflict of interest, this is our purpose statement. And so if you go through like actually the biggest resource is the IRS, which I know a lot of people are like, really? The IRS has, when you submit for a 501c3, they actually have trainings, and they're legal. They're not the most riveting trainings, but you can go through there and they basically walk you through the 501c3 application that trains you on everything you have to have for your nonprofit.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
And you can get that at pay.gov.
Okay, pay.gov. Huh. So what is that? So that is actually what is pay.gov? Is that the
pay.gov is the IRS website, because when you do, the next thing that you need is your 501c3 if you need tax exemption, and it has all lines out exactly what you need to have set up to be able to be considered a 501c3.
Gotcha. Okay. So that takes care of like a lot of your legal stuff. I'm sure there are other things too. But let's move on.
Can I just preface again?
Yeah.
I'm saying this based on my experience.
Right.
I am not an attorney.
Right. And we're not giving any legal advice. Really, my intent is to help nurses kind of give them the starting point, like, oh, here, go check this out. Sort of what are the resources out there and who's going to teach you how to do what? No, we're not giving legal advice. We're nurses. We don't do that. So,
we don't give medical advice either, but we can train you what's going on.
So these are just kind of like your jumping off points. You're like, this is where you can start and go get some information if you want to start your nonprofit. Let's now move over to probably the elephant in the room. The big question is, okay, it's a nonprofit, but it's going to cost money to run it, right?
Just like any business, yes.
Right. So what does that look like? What do you do?
Well, there's multiple funding sources that you can do as a nonprofit. Obviously, the one that most people think of, and actually we're getting ready to kick off a donor awareness campaign, and it's you just solicit donations. And then you can do it through multiple means. You can do it through, talking to people that you know. You can do an email campaign. You can do social media. There's also platforms out there that you can use. There's GoFundMe, Kickstart. I mean, there's various different ways that you can do crowdfunding for a nonprofit. I will tell you that, like, we have applied for our 501c3, and we are designated as a not domestic nonprofit, and have a certification number and your EIN. That's the other thing you have to get. You have to get your EIN number, to be able to, yes, this is an organization in the state of Nevada. While you are getting your 501c3, a lot of the platforms, once you are designated as a 501c3 community charity, you can get better rates. And so the like the Stripe accounts are, at a lower percentage than what they are for you to be able to solicit donations online. But it doesn't mean that you can't. You just kind of are doing it on the personal, like a personal GoFundMe page, until you're able to do it as a designated in their platforms, because they're making sure that they are following the regulations and the IRS for what they are doing as well.
Okay, so now at what point in this process, when you're getting your 501c, you've got to go down to the bank and open up an account, right?
Yeah,
But
you could. I did that.
A personal account. At what point do you have to wait for the government to get your 501c, or do you just get your EIN and then you can open up the nonprofit account, or what?
Yeah, you can. Like, I went down and opened a bank account at a local bank, which I will say, trying to open a bank account during COVID is.
Oh.
I'm like, nobody will take my money. It's like, this is crazy. But anyway, it was like a 2.5 week ordeal finally to get an appointment to get in there to just start a bank account, which is crazy. But that's the times that we're living in right now.
Okay, but you're starting an account under the name of the nonprofit.
Under the nonprofit. Once you have your articles of incorporation, which is once you've submitted your articles from the state, like Nevada, it was, I think, a 2-day turnaround. You could pay extra and have it within like 2 hours. So it's just depending on the state. Once you have your articles of incorporation, you can go and open a bank account in that corporation's name. And again, it's not, you're not opening it in your name, you're opening it in the organization's name.
Right, exactly. And then, because I would think that if you're doing like crowdfunding or something like that, I mean, well, you would have to set up your account where you're going to receive funds. You're obviously not going to receive funds into your personal account. You need to receive funds. So that just has to be taken care of before you start looking for donations to get going.
Correct.
Correct? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, once you have your articles of incorporation and your EIN, you can go down to the bank and open an account.
Okay, okay. So tell me, what have been some of the most difficult hurdles trying to get over in starting a nonprofit?
What is the most difficult hurdle? I think just like anything in a business, you think that, if you think it's going to take you 5 days, it's going to take you 10.
Yeah.
It seems like our optimism and reality don't always mesh. And so I think that's it. And then the other, it is literally getting the word. So for us, it's getting the word out to get health professionals to join our community so that we can provide the free resources, and then getting the word out there to get the funding. But there are other options. You can work with your local governments. You can do fee for service. You can sell products. So, I mean, donation is not the only way in which you bring in money in a nonprofit. It's just the one that most are familiar with.
Okay. So, and I would think, I'm taking stabs at stuff. I'm just thinking, because I don't know anything about starting a nonprofit. But I guess I would look at, maybe donations, but then also people who would volunteer, because I know that you offer coaching and stuff. So are you maybe seeking some professionals that would be willing to volunteer some of their time?
We will. And then when we will actually be looking at different funding sources, like if we were able to get a grant, we build the people's salaries right into that, so that it's part of the funding. Like, I actually had a conversation yesterday with a potential intern, somebody who needed to, she's a public health intern, and she needed somewhere to do her internship. And so we chatted, and I was like, if this works and we are able to secure some funding, we just write the salary in. because you have to have people provide the services. You can't, just like a bit, you can't do everything yourself.
Right.
And so when you're going on a grander scale, there's a portion in which you as the founder, the executive director, needs to make sure that the organization is running. Just like in your for-profit, you become the CEO, where you are working on the business instead of constantly in the business. And so you create those funding sources so that you can hire the people to provide the services that you want, or to donate some of them. I think this is probably the biggest thing in the training that I've had, as well as starting it, is treat it like a business. It's not a charitable bake sale.
Yeah.
Okay? You're not going to make your money. You're not going to be sustainable, doing a bake sale, doing, your friend sells some product as an MLM and they're willing to give you a portion of it. Those are all fabulous, but that is not going to get you long-term sustainability where you can do that 3 years from now and feed your family and take care of the people that you want to do. It's a business. And so I think that's the biggest, is that as you get new funding, as you create a new, like maybe you're going for a grant and you're going for some funding, is that grant, whatever services you're going to, has to be managed by somebody. So you've got to build those salaries and that overhead into the services that you're going to give.
Okay. Into your funding plan or your financial plan, as far as donations and all that kind of stuff, you have to write that in, because you know that you're going to have to pay those out.
Correct. And really this is what I love about the nonprofit, is you are providing a service, a charitable service. For us, it's helping healthcare professionals build their professional resilience and avoid burnout. But at the same time, I'm building a company that's going to employ local people. So this it's a win-win for everybody. The more that you can give out in services, the more you can, and the more funding you have, the more people you can employ. And so if you start looking at it like that, and it's a win-win-win, the community gets healthcare professionals that they need locally. I get to employ local people. I get to provide a service to people that I want to. And we're helping out. So it's not a, I got money for this service, and so now I just go do my thing. It's the ability to be able to provide at a higher level.
Right. And of course, I mean, it takes money. It takes money to provide, even if you're providing this as a nonprofit. So let me ask the question for the nurse who's sitting here in my audience saying, well, is it wrong if I pay myself because I'm spending an awful lot of time doing all of this? Do the board members and stuff, do we get paid? Because it's a nonprofit, so everything should be free.
Okay.
How would you respond?
We're not the charitable bake sale. You are a company. Would you have a CEO of a company? Would the CEO of your hospital do it for free?
No.
They're nonprofits.
Yeah.
Many hospitals are nonprofits. Do the CEOs do it for free?
No.
Okay.
No.
Do you get to go to the local supermarket and get your bread for free?
No.
No, you have to pay for it. Okay. So you get paid for your services. And what happens, so like for us, because we haven't secured enough funding, I am not a paid employee.
Yeah.
Until we get our first either grant or big, we've met a cash threshold that we want for our organization, I am volunteering. Yeah. And I am building it, just like when you're building a business. You know that it takes that upfront, however many months or whatever you're providing. Now, we could provide coaching services right now and charge a fee for it. Mm-hmm. There would be nothing wrong with that. That is one thing that you can do. If you provide a service, then you can charge for it, or you can get people to donate. Like one of ours is, donate or sponsor a hero, where they actually are paying for the one-on-one coaching, but it's a donor. And now this is a person who's gotten the scholarship and then they qualify for it. So it is okay to pay yourself, and it is imperative that you pay yourself. Here's the caveat with it, is that once you start being paid, you need to step off the board, because your board members typically are not paid. Now you can reimburse them, and you can, for any of their expenses, like maybe you have a board meeting and you need them to come. You can do that. Some nonprofits actually provide stipends to their board members. So you have that latitude. You just need to make sure that you're running it like a business.
Yeah, and I think that if you look at it that way, you're gonna, you don't want to start a nonprofit just like you don't want to start a business thinking, it might fail. You want to ensure that it's going to be able to continue on and to deliver that on that mission that you've set up. So yeah, you do need to start to run it like a business. And I would say almost, well, I don't know more so, but you have almost like this moral sense of obligation to serve people, but you can't serve from an empty plate, right?
Yeah, I had a friend who said, closed mouths do not get fed.
Yeah, right.
So you are spreading the word, and you're going to get, you have to be able to bring that back to yourself.
Yeah. Okay, I want to just touch on something too that you mentioned a little bit ago, and that was about grants. Now, I know that it's really going to depend on what it is, what the nonprofit that the nurse is really thinking about doing, but how would a nurse go about researching what grants are available?
So I'm in the process of this. So I have not successfully secured a grant at this moment. But bottom line, it's connections. It is connecting with your local community, finding out where the funds are, what is available. There are foundations that are, the whole premise of a foundation is typically to give money to other nonprofits. And so, you have to align with what your mission, does it align with what they have and meet their requirements? And so there's you have stuff local, you have regional, you have state, and then you have federal. Federal is extremely competitive. Typically, most of everyone that I've been talking with in the nonprofit world, the local stuff. If you're doing local, it's much easier to secure dollars.
Oh, okay. You mean what you're saying is that if you're serving locally, it's easier?
Yeah, or you're getting to know those people. If let's say, the governor, we'll take homelessness because we know we have a homelessness problem. I happened to look at I had a friend who looked at the governor of, I think it was California. One of his major initiatives were related to homelessness. If your nonprofit was about addressing the homelessness, you already know that governor in his plan has pledged X amount of dollars to fight this. So then you're connecting with people locally to, hey, I know the governor has this plan. How do we do this in our community? Where are those funds? Who do I talk to? And so it's networking locally to find out. And most cities have a foundation that, provides a lot to the community. Find out who those people are. It's all about networking and knowing what's available, and then just asking.
Okay.
And this is where a good mentor who has already done it, who knows, where where to go look, what rocks to turn over, and can help you be able to do that. And quite frankly, I would just put this out there. If anybody, there's a couple different that I'm aware of. If somebody were really interested in that, I'd encourage them, reach out. I'm happy to direct you and might have a resource that would be helpful.
Wonderful. So then part of what you need to kind of write into your financial plan is, I mean, you have professional grant writers.
Do I have no?
Well, I'm not saying, I'm just saying in general. I actually used to work a job that was grant funded. It was a nursing job. I loved it, by the way, but it was grant funded, and you'd have grant writers, that meaning that they would they were the ones writing, crossing the T's and dotting the I's, trying to get the grant.
That's typically at the federal level. I mean, they do have that at the state level. You don't have to have a grant writer. I mean, I've done grants. I've gotten stuff. I've gotten them from I've gotten grants for my for-profit hospitals, even programs. My experience and kind of what I'm hearing from some of my mentors is you don't have to have a grant writer. You have to have a mission. You have to have a purpose that makes a difference. Mm-hmm. And that's what they're looking for, and that you have a sustainable business. And so, yes, you can hand it off to somebody, but who knows it better than the people who are a part of it? If you just hire some legalese technical writer, can they tell your story? Can they really connect, and do they use the words that are really going to be able to make a difference? Like when I used to, so as a CNO, we taught people about customer service. And what was one of the things that they said? They would say, go to the gut and then go to the head, meaning touch them in the gut, like where it really, they have a visceral reaction to the care or to the cause that you're doing. And then you can engage their head.
Right.
A technical writer is going to always write from the head. Right. Your mission is from the gut, from the heart. And so I think too many times we think we have to have all these things. And if you have raised up in the healthcare environment where you have pulled out those Joint Commission manuals, you have looked at those CMS regulations, and you have written those policies, I do this, and this, you are a damn grant writer. If you really think about it, you have the skills, they give you the roadmap, they tell you what you need, you follow the directions, and you give them your purpose.
Yeah. Okay, so kind of along that line, but kind of let's leave the grants for just a minute. Help me, or help our audience see. We were talking about mission, and this is just the same thing you've got to do as when you start a business, a for-profit business. Is you may have a mission and you're passionate about it, but what about the need? Is there a need? Identifying the need. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that, where you know how some people might want to start a business, or in this case, start a nonprofit, but they haven't really researched the need in the community.
Well, I think you need to have a need. So it's funny that you asked this question, because just yesterday I was talking with a fellow entrepreneur, and she was talking with one of our colleagues because they were working on a new product line, and she gave her this acronym, and it is NERCM, N-E-R-C-M. And she said, for any program to be profitable, and I don't know who came up with this, but this is, I will share it because literally I just wrote this down last night. You have to have a need. You have to have the experience to provide the service. You have to have the resources to be able to make it come to fruition. You need customers, and then you need a model in which to deliver it. So if you've got those 5 things, you have what it needs to take from your idea to serve the world.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that was a need.
You have a need, experience, resources, customers, and the model to deliver it.
Okay, so just like with any business, nonprofit, same thing.
Yeah, and actually she's a brand strategist, the person who actually shared that. That's what she does, is helps organizations, brand as well as strategic planning for their long-term goals. So I will add this. Google is your friend. So Google, find out, what are people asking about? What are they, and look at the numbers of what they're doing for research. And be specific. Like, we are all about stress and burnout recovery and building personal resilience within the healthcare profession. If you're going to be, you want to have a niche, you want to know clearly. And I share this because I have a friend that I've worked with, been friends with for a while, and she just niched her business. She was kind of global. She's a healer. She did all these things, but she niched in the last month, and she's gone from really struggling to get clients to spot on. Like, I know when I talk to somebody, she does, it's called Healing with the Blues. And she helps moms who have had miscarriages and stillbirths go from grief to grace. Like, I know immediately who to refer to her because she's that clear on her message. You want to be the same way. Like, if you know a health professional who's struggling with, burnout, chronic overwhelm, send them to Karrie. It's Christy. People know I'm working a shift and I'm ready to make a change. Who do I call? Christy. So you want to make sure that it's really clear as to what you do, so people know who to refer to you.
Okay, so now at this point, let's kind of switch gears here a little bit and talk about a little bit about any precautions that if somebody is looking to start they want to start a nonprofit, what can you caution them about?
What can I caution them? Well, I think the biggest is, one, thinking you can do it all yourself. You can. It'll take you longer, and you have a high potential of burning out before you get to the goal. The other is, like I said before, thinking that you can do it overnight. So if you need to have a financial cushion to be able to do it. And if you don't have money to be able to invest a little bit into your business, then you need to keep the job before you make the leap.
Yeah.
Because so I have Kelly O'Neill, who's a business strategist of mine, and she's actually one of our board members. And she says, if you treat your business like a hobby, it'll pay. Or if you treat your business like a business, it'll pay you like a business. If you treat it like a hobby, it'll cost you like a hobby.
Right, exactly. That's spot on. It's so true.
So you have to make sure that you have the financial means to be able to do it and not totally stress yourself out. It's not to say you can't do this stuff on the side, not to say that you can't do it very low cost. It's just, don't think that you're going to make buku's money in the first 6 months. It's going to take you some time to be able to get it. It's not that it can't happen. It's just, be realistic about what you can do, how much time you can invest into your business, so that you can plan accordingly.
Okay.
And then the other, do not let people steal your joy.
Yeah.
I have a colleague, a physician, who does kind of like what I do on the burnout side. And I connected with him with Redwood. And I remember when I told him what we were doing, he was just like, oh, but they're terrible. They don't take care of themselves. And, they don't always want to invest in themselves, and this and that. And I remember I had to do this like proud peacock moment. And I said to him, I said, you know what? You might be right. You absolutely might be right. But you know what? I am going to continue with my rose-colored glasses, believing that I can make a difference, and that they will see that they need the help, and they'll use me and allow me to be a part of their journey. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm like, you cannot, well, I just want to caution you. And I'm like, that's fine. You'll have family that'll tell you you're crazy. And don't get
Right.
advice from people who aren't making it.
Yeah.
If you're getting advice from somebody who punches a time clock every day telling you, oh, you don't have the security, you don't have this, you won't have that. Well, they don't have it. How do they
Right.
know?
How do they know? Yeah,
And
you can't.
so, again, it's that get a mentor who can help you along the way, because it's scary. There's days where you'll have tears, um, but you know what? This is what I say for nurses, especially. No one dies. No one dies with what we do.
Yeah, and this isn't that great. I used to have an attorney. I used to work in. I used to be a legal assistant before I became a nurse. And yeah, one of our partners always said, "Nobody dies. Nobody dies." Whether you're starting a business or you're starting a nonprofit, no one's going to die from this. So, and I just wanted to add that you are always going to have naysayers. And just like you were saying, Karrie, people want to rain on your parade. Don't let them do it. Honestly, if you kind of have gone through your NERCM, is that acronym?
Uh-huh.
Your NERCM, your need, your experience, resources, customer, and your model, and you know that you've got something that can work and that's going to help people. Don't let anybody rain on your parade. You just go for it. Just go for it. So, okay, any last thoughts
Um,
or words of encouragement or anything?
I would just, okay, so this is on a very personal note because of what I do and what I believe, is that if you have nurses who are contemplating starting their own business and they've been stressed and they've burned out, that they take care of that, because you can leave the arena of the job and start your business, but if you haven't dealt with the underlying issues that were causing your stress and burnout. Now, burnout has multicultural, you've got the pillar of the organization, you've got the environment, and then you've got you. And so if there are things that are, you only thought that it was the environment, chances are there was a part of it that was you too. And so I encourage people to address those issues, because otherwise the same habits that you had of always going into work, never saying no, never creating boundaries, giving of your personal and family time for somebody else, not taking care of yourself, not making yourself a priority, doesn't change just because you now are a business owner instead of a,
Nurse at the bedside.
a wage earner.
Right.
So you have to make sure that you are whole so that you can wholeheartedly do your business.
Okay, so let's just wrap up really briefly. I just tell us again what Helping Healthcare Heroes does, and then give us how can people find you?
So Helping Healthcare Heroes is a nonprofit where we are dedicated to building a sanctuary for health professionals, to give them a community to learn, to be able to get tools, resources, training to build their personal and professional resilience, avoid burnout, and be able to create that balance and joy in their life. And it's all right there in a community so that you have that support, so that when you decide to leave, it's not because of the stress and burnout. You're making a conscious choice, but you still get to stay in the profession.
Okay, and then how can people find you?
So we are at helpinghealthcareheroes.org. If you go there, it'll have all of our contact info. We've got a private Facebook community, which is Helping Healthcare Heroes Community, where I go in there every week and give free training, and we give lots of resources to really help people build their professional and personal resilience.
Wonderful.
But helpinghealthcareheroes.org, and it's HEROES for those of you that are terrible spellers like I, .org. It's tomato.
We'll have it in the description below this video. So, so we'll make sure that people can find you.
Yeah, and share it. I mean, our mission is to reach out and touch 5,000 health professionals by the end of October, and really help build their personal tool chest so that they can be okay in the job. Because, as I say, we're fighting for a sanctuary for those who fight to save our lives every day.
Exactly. And boy, you could use some ambassadors, right, to spread the word.
Yes.
Okay, well, Karrie, thank you so much for joining me. It was a pleasure, as always, to see you.
Thank you. So happy to be here.